Another 25 Torx holds this down right here. We're just going to leave this loose. It's our factory manual valve. Putting in a Sonax one. This allows you to get converter fill in park, and you can take that check valve out of the cooler line. It likes to blow up the overdrive section. Normally I don't take these valve bodies all the way apart this far. I just take it down to here and I blow it off. Most of these valves are not stuck usually, so I just need to get all the junk out of there. And I don't normally take all this linkage off. I just lift it up enough to get my valve out. I'll show you how I do that. Alright, we got, I forgot to measure this. Okay, these are really bad about wearing out, and they make a kit from Sonax that you can put in there. And I don't think I got one up here, but it takes care of all that slop. Just take your linkage, I'll show you here in a second, and if it's got a lot of wobble back and forth, you're going to want to repair that. And in fact, I think I got a video on it. And then Supplier makes a deal to go on here. There's two different lengths right here. It does a long one and a short one. The one from Transgo looks like that. I like this one, it works the best. Alright, the way I do it normally is I don't even use this tool unless I pop this valve out of there, or the ball out of there. What I normally do is I put this down here in the low position, and I put my finger over here and there, and I just pry up enough, just enough, get this valve out of there, right there, and put the new one in, put it back down. It usually doesn't pop out, sometimes it does. Here's our new seal. This side is going to face up. Once you get that down in there, there's a washer that sits on top, and then there's an E-clip that holds it all together. And these like to rust out when it gets all rusty up here, so be prepared to try to find an E-clip, and they're not a normal size. It is a little bit smaller than most of the ones that you're going to come across. Right here, move this linkage back and forth, and that's not too much wobble right there. They get a lot worse than that. We got two plates that go up here. This hole right here, I wouldn't go any bigger than about 68 thousandths. There's kits out there that tell you to drill that out to 1/4 inch. That's way too big, and you're just wasting your time. After you get to a certain size, it's not doing anything anyway. And if you get too large, you can start running into codes for what is the code? line pressure offset, I think is what it is. I'll look it up and I'll have it in the deal, but if you don't go too big, you don't have to worry about it. And 68 thousandths is about as big as you want to go. They did tests on it, and about 110 thousandths is where it quits having any effect on it at all. I mean, it says the most amount of effect you're going to get. You can go larger than that, and it's not going to do anything more than what the 110 thousandths did for you. But you don't need that anyway. So I wouldn't go any bigger. 68's about what I do, and that looks bigger than that. Okie dokie. Do our check balls. And all my check balls have disappeared. All right. These are 1/4-inch balls everywhere except for right here, and it's 11/32 or 342 thousandths. And it goes right here, there, and there. You can put that ball in there. They eliminated it. At one point, every one I've ever seen has had a ball there, but it doesn't do anything. That's why they eliminated it, and there's no hole in the plate for it to work anyway, so I don't know why they were putting it in there. That's the number 2 check ball on this one. If you look at your separator plate, I'm trying to not mess my marks up. All this is going to be at the end of the video, but if you look right here is where the number 2 ball goes, and there's no place for the ball to seat. If let's find one that goes on here, like this one right here. This is a shuttle ball right here. It seats on these 2 different holes. Even the single hole is not even round, so there's no place for it to seat. And it would have to have another hole up here for it to function anyway. So I don't know why they put it in there. This hole is different on the 48 RE. It's not in the other ones. And the other 42 through 47 REs will have 2 holes here. So you know it takes a check ball. Won't have that hole there. These passages here are different on all the others. The 48 is like this. And in fact, I think it's this passage here that goes all the way through. Anyhow, those passages are different. On the 42 through 47, this is cast shut right here. This is cast open right here. And I forget what it is about this hole right here, but it'll all be at the end of the video. So we got 2 check balls that go in here also, usually, not always. And steel one goes up here. I've seen steel down here, but you should put a plastic one down here. And the only time it takes those balls when there's 2 holes right here, 2 holes right here. If you put a ball in, I think this one, if you put a ball in when it doesn't take it, no forwards. This one here, if you put a ball in when it doesn't take it, no reverse. So make sure that you you've got both holes, or don't put the ball in. Need to take some pictures of this. But I like to use the round filter. I don't like that cone-shaped filter, and when this is down, you want to make sure that filter is loose. Here's our hold down plate for here. Our plates pretty much lined up. There are line-up bolts in here and here. Alright, our filter sits in this pocket right here. We got a 186 thousandths ball that goes in this pocket right here if it has the pocket for it, and has the two holes for it. The 42 through 47 REs have a round hole here. They have a hole that's shaped just like that right there. And we shall get the other part of our valve body, and we'll be back. Leave the accumulator out of the situation for the momentary. And let's make sure all this is still the way it should be. We'll get some, set this up on so we're, there we go. Usually I'm doing this over on the edge of the table. Alright, on the ones that have the tube that come around here, you got this bracket. The 48s were always like this, the 47s and 42s, 44s. Some of them only had the one deal up here. Most of them have both of these. Alright, these big washered ones are your filter bolts. Only two of them get used on the filter. You had the cloth filter, it would take all three, but with the deep filter it only uses two. So I'll go ahead and put one of them in there.
Hello, Sir Thomas.
This bolt here and this bolt over here are your lineup bolts. And once you get those lined up, you got everything all started. It's all good. Now this bolt here, some of them are as long as these bolts, some are short, like the bolts that go for the transducer and governor solenoid. I've seen both. You can put either. Actually, let's tighten this one down all the way. Yeah, we'll tighten this one down. Alright, we got a boost tube. Goes in here, here, and here. Let's put that down, bend that up. We got accumulator, it has 2 sealing rings on here. These springs almost always broke, so plan on buying one. They make a thick coil, which that's what this is, and a thin one. I've only ever seen like 2 of the thin ones, and they're in the really early models. The sealing rings are scarf cut, go together like that. You have this plate that goes on top. It's got the longer bolts like the solenoid that goes on the side here and on those plates that we've been putting on. There's a lot of pressure on here, so you don't want to use too short a bolt.
Waiting on a washer kit and a Right.
A 3/4 lockup solenoid assembly. There's different ones, different connectors for different style solenoids. I'm going to try to have all that in the end. Make sure your gasket with the screens are on there. If you don't replace this, a lot of your kits are coming with this gasket now. Just make sure it's nice and clean. We got longer bolts for this one also. I think my batteries got to be getting close to going. And depending on what style governor solenoid, governor solenoid you have, is how this is held in. The earlier ones have a clip that go through here and hold it in. This one here has this bracket that comes down. Our solenoid, it's going to fit on there just like so. Got O-rings on here. Always replace these. These are always bad. This is like the #1 failure on these units. This is a aftermarket style one, so the connector is upside down. All you gotta do is twist that and put it in upside down. They also make one that you can put the 4L60 EPC solenoid on here. It works really well too. Plug that in and lock it in place and twist this upside down. Now, I've seen a lot of people, and this one was no exception, when they're putting this on there, they just leave this connector pointed over here and it gets on here and it bends it up. So don't do that. Our gasket, these two holes need to line up, those holes right there. You can leave this loose if you want to till you get it on the case and get your bolts all in there. I just go ahead and tighten it down and make sure it's lined up and tighten it down now. Everything's grabbing everything. Our wiring. Let's see if we can get this twisted around properly. It's going to loop in through that hook down there on that bracket. Got a little tip that goes in that hole. Okay, we only had a few minutes left. I knew it wasn't going to make it. Never does. We got this bolt that holds this on there. It's going to sit on there loose. Alright, there we go. Now, before we put our filter on, actually, I guess we can do it. You can do it this way. Made a tool that they suggested we make, and just down in low, and then we're going to put this between the throttle valve and it may be hard to get this on camera. I think it's just going to be in my way. Get down in there. See if we can do this without it rolling around. I don't know how well that's showing up on there. You get between the throttle valve and push your throttle valve all the way in. And that's supposed to be all the way back. And we're out of adjustment just a tad bit. So I'm going to adjust that in a little bit. All right, we're right there. Alright, making sure everything's working good there. Now the way Transgo says to do it is to make the gap on this plate between here and here 1/4 inch, and then forget what he said this gap is supposed to be between here and here. I believe it was 1 5/16 inches, but no, wasn't that. Where did I put that paper? Well, I can't find it now, but I think it was 860 thousandths between here and here is what he says. Let's see what it is right now that we adjusted that. $867, so that comes out about right. This tool is from ATSG, I believe it was ATSG or ATRA. I think it was ATRA, and they said to make this distance right here 627 thousandths. So I just took a bolt. They were talking about making a pin to fit it and everything. I just took a bolt that the threads were different, and I cross-threaded it because I didn't feel like having to go and weld it, dig the welder out and everything. So I just cross-threaded it till it wouldn't turn no more, so it's not going to come off. And I ground the side of this nut down about 40 thousandths. I think it's a 5/8 nut, and I just ground it down till it measured 627, and I rounded this off so I'd know this is the one that I'm measuring off of. Then they said to measure up from here to here 1 5/16 inches. So I just marked me a line right there. Now I gotta go back and find out what they were wanting me to measure. They want you to measure from the base of here I think maybe, okay, I see what they're wanting you to measure. And how you're going to get in there, I don't know. But you go off the base of this right here, and that plate that adjuster is on should line up with that notch that you made, and it does line up perfectly with it. So we're set on the adjustment there. We're set on the adjustment here now. And the only thing we got left is to put our filter on. We can go ahead and put it on now. We don't have to wait for it to be on the vehicle. Or on the vehicle, on the transmission. So we're done with this valve body. Turns out I did not have a rebuild video on the 48, so we'll be going on to it next. And I'll have a rebuild video on that. So let me get set up for all that, and we'll be back. And that adjustment here and here is 3/16 Allen. Alright, 48 RE rebuild. Thought I had a video on it, but apparently I don't. So we're going to do an LS kit, which is a kit with clutches, the front band, the overdrive clutch support, and it wasn't bad so much. I mean, it usually gets galled up in here. It wasn't, but I couldn't get the snap ring off for some reason. It was really hard to get it off. I'm not sure what was going on. So I was just going to go ahead and replace it. Doing the case saver for the tail housing from Supplier. That's their number there, 12271-1. That's Witt's number actually. Pump bushing 12864. This always breaks, always replace it. The band strut, this one was the one that was broke. It broke it out right there. And they went ahead and got me the heavy duty long one from Sonax. Sonax is 22825-01 from Witt. It's A22916-2. 5-prong neutral switch, governor pressure solenoid and transducer, 3/4 lockup solenoid assembly. Replace that because the connector is leaking fluid through it. Of course, the filter, manual valve from Sonax. I think that's it. So we'll get going on this one. Not gonna be able to do it all tonight because my washers, having trouble getting the washers, and I think we finally got it figured out. It should be here tonight in the night drop, so we'll see. Sprag assembly, our bearing. Put a little grease on there to hold that up in there. Drop that down in, and once it's in there, I'm gonna drop in. We're turning counterclockwise and locking clockwise. Our overdrive planet. Let this bearing go on the back here. Lineup tool, I just used an old intermediate shaft that I cut down and actually made it the same length as, or pretty close to the same length as the tool that they sell. And this is what I used for a long time. I do have the tool, the factory tool, to do this. I got a video on how to do the shim selection, so you can watch that if you need to do that. If you didn't change anything, you shouldn't need to change your shim. So make sure everything's turning good, nice and free. The factory clutches on a 48 a lot of times are going to have these single-sided clutches. Most of the kits will not come with these anymore. They come with a double-sided. You want this bottom plate with the step facing down. Usually in these kits, since they don't come with the double or single-sided clutches, they give you the steels for this. So they did not give me the steels. I'm gonna have to go hunt the steels up. So once I do that, I'll be back. Alright, got my steels. Now 48 RE, you're going to use all these. If you're doing something else, how many clutches you use depends on how that snap ring groove is set. Alright, our step goes up on the last pressure plate. Our 12864 snap ring. And let me go press this down. in your kit, depending on whose kit you get, they may already have it separated for you, but if they don't, they just throw them all in there together. We've got a couple that are sort of close together. The larger one goes on the overdrive piston, and then the inner lip seal one, there's two that are similar in size and outside diameter, but one's got a larger lip. The larger lip goes to the forward drum, the smaller lip goes into the overdrive piston. So this one goes in here. Check ball in here, make sure it's loose and rattling around. Lips facing up towards you. In some of your kits, they send you two different seals go in on the direct drum, rear drum, or front drum. Chrysler calls this the front drum and the forward drum the rear drum. I call it forward drum and direct drum. So as long as we're on the same page, we know what we're talking about. Anyway, they'll give you two different diameter or thick wall thicknesses here. One will be narrower, one will be wider. You want the widest one. Don't ever put that narrow one in there. You will regret it. You will be taking it back apart and you will be replacing it with the wider one. So just go ahead and put the wide one in. I don't know why they put that thin one in the kit. None of them ever took it. Moved that up nice and good. I haven't had the problem on any of these getting this piston in. It usually goes in just fine because that bevel's nice and good. On the early Torque Flight 8s, I used to have a lot of problems getting these in. Not just me, a lot of people. And I talked about it in the rebuild video for it, how to get it down in there. Some of these kits come with this O-ring that goes on here. This is an aftermarket support. Not all your kits are going to come with that, so if you don't need it, save it. Alright, you got 9 return springs. You can put 3 together, skip 2, and just repeat. And the short end, make sure those are down on there. Doesn't feel like it. Alright. There's a taper to all your snap rings. It's not just on transmissions, it's on everything. You want the short end of the taper up towards you. You want the opening of this in here. You don't want it half in, half off. Alright. You want the thick clutches. Pressure plate on top. You can actually go with the thinner pressure plate and add another clutch if you wanted to. You got 2 wavy snap rings that are the same size. One's got a deep wave to it, one's got a shallow wave. Shallow wave goes here. This is a snap-on drawer slide tool. I always want to call it a drawer lock tool. I don't know why. Alright, so we got a bevel plate and this plastic washer that goes on top. That snap ring that had the deep wave to it is going to go on here. Easier for me to get out here. Alright, well, you being this way. Alright, make sure we're all the way back in that groove. A washer that goes here, it only fits one way. You want the brass looking side up towards you. This pressure plate goes on the bottom. Want the thin clutches now. Here's a wide opening where you can keep that all together. Pressure plate on top. And flat snap ring. Yeah, these sealing rings right here, I saved them and put them on my RE5s. On the input drum. And these hook together like so. The factory rings that come on here are butt cut, so can't screw them up. The rings that come in the kit get the right ones. Alright, ones that come in the kit separate just like so, and they go together just like that. Only open them up as far as you need to get on there. You don't want to break the back of them. It's easy to do, and you'll never know that you did it. Sometimes you feel the snap, sometimes you don't. And the washer goes on top. Our drum sits on top of that. my bushing driver. Alright, I'm going to go press this in. There's an opening right there on where the bushing is put together. We don't want that opening here or in any of these spots where it gets staked. Alright, stake our bushing in place. A 3M weather strip adhesive on the seal. I'm going to press this in. The outer gear has a dot, faces up. The inner gear has a dot on each side, doesn't matter. There's a sealing ring on the 48s. There is not on anything else. There's two different style converters. There's one that takes a sealing ring, one that doesn't. If you have the converter that does not take the sealing ring, just leave the ring off. But if you got to make damn sure that this one's on there, on the one that takes it. 1/2-inch bolts, 6 of them. You have to use a shallow wall socket because it's real close on a couple of these bolts. O-ring. This is a selective washer right here. These have the hook on them again. Alright, I think we're pretty much at a standstill until we get our washers in the morning. Alright, we got the Sonax reverse servo. This is it right here. Sonax number 22912-01K. And it's a metal one instead of the aluminum one. Has an O-ring on it, give you a new clip for it. You really need a vise to put this in. It makes it a whole lot easier. Put your lip seal on the bottom there. It's two different sizes, one for diesel, one for gas. This one here, make sure on your sealing rings they are butt cut. These are the ones for the accumulator there, but I mean not butt cut, but scarf cut. They go together like that. This one here is really close to another one, so make sure it's the right one on here. You've got an O-ring that goes on here. Got a spring, a flat washer, and then our snap ring. We want short end of the taper up towards us again. What's up? Busy as shit. What's up? Yeah, well, I'm not familiar with it. I know of it. Okay. We got the same thing on the accumulator here. We got the spring goes on top. The spring's gonna go on top of here. Just gonna go on there. Here's our snap ring for that. Here's our snap or return spring for here. Just gonna go on top like that. With the lip down. Here's your snap ring for that. Here's the 12/864. Almost always broken. And I think we're ready. Now we gotta put our shaft together. Okay. So we got our intermediate shaft, our ring gear, 6-tab washer that goes on the back. Six-tab washer goes on the front. I don't know. Get down in there. Sun shell. 5-tab washer goes on the shell. So I'm going to go ahead and put some grease on that so I don't have to worry about it. That 6-tab washer goes on the front. This plastic ring goes there. And our snap ring goes on the front. Short end of the taper out towards us again. And we have this clearance problem. Oh, there it goes. Just wasn't holding my mouth right. Alright, then we got this washer goes on the front. And I got to change camera angles and we'll put this in the case. Alright, need our gasket. And make sure to get this turned the right way. Get it right the first time. Lube up our O-ring. If you got the electronic unit, make sure and plug those 2 holes. You got the governor unit, and you leave the holes open. Make sure that filter's in there. Make sure that check ball's rattling around. .3/8" heads on the bolts. Put our sprag in the bottom. You notice it's got the notches on here. It's got the notches there. Put our band in, the anchor side facing down. Our band drum. And our 2-tab washer. And our snap ring, short end of the taper up. So we do have a problem here. There's something else going on. What do we got here? Looks like our ace is walking out. Alright, let's see what we got there. There we go. Put our intermediate shaft in. Put our band in. Sometimes you got notched on the upside and the downside. Sometimes it's only on one side. In any case, you want to notch the end up. Put our drum on, make sure our washer's in there. And it's down. Move up our case. And our gasket. Line up our pump. Got washers on the bolts, so I'm gonna change these washers out, put the pump bolts back in. Got to change camera angles. We're gonna be back up there. So there's my washers. I'm gonna do all that. Since I'm wasting camera time, you don't need to see me bolt the pump in. Once we get it bolted in, we'll be back and we'll be up on the bench. Alrighty. I'm gonna lube the crap out of your servo bore for your reverse. The others don't matter so much, but the reverse one really does. Tends to get cocked, and I think it has more to do with the person that's installing it than anything else, I've come to find out, at least in my experience, because I had an R&R guy, and he tends to get the servo cocked more than the rest of them, so it's something that he's doing. But I found if you lube this up really well, you get the adjustment fairly tight, and you don't put it in gear until you're pretty much sure it's full of fluid, you run less of a risk of cocking that servo. So, having said that, we're going to adjust this a little bit tighter than what the book calls for, and I don't do the front one the way it calls for either. I do it by feel. Just the way I've always done it. And I don't seem to have any problems out of it, so I'll just continue doing it my way. Oop, I missed the snap ring groove. Come on, get in there. Alright, here's our adjustment. We're going to put silicone underneath the nut. Here's our heavy duty strut. This end's going to face up. And I believe they call for 2 turns from the factory on the front and 2.5, I think, on the rear, since it's a double wrap. I just go by feel. We got our bottom anchor pin. Upper one has a couple O-rings on it. Alright, we're going to tighten that up. Air check this, and we'll see if our adjustment changes. When you're going to air check your drums, you're going to have to push forward on your drums. And go in a little bit more. Alright, I think we'll leave it right there. Put your little dab of silicone underneath that nut. hit that with an impact. They like to back out. Valve body on. We got a couple O-rings on the electrical connector. Alright, short valve body bolts go there and there, and one over here. The next to the longest ones go here and here. The rest go over here. Seven 16ths on those. Half-inch bolts on the pan. Probably gonna want to go over this pan a couple times, let it sit for about 15 minutes in between, let that silicone embedded or rubber embedded gasket compress. It may loosen up on you just a little bit. All right, come on now. To boot. Lever seal. You can get the remover and installer tool off of snap-on truck. That's where I got mine. Move up your piston. Get these two little tips. There's two bosses back here. Gotta line those up into there. Alright, now quit messing with me and get on in there. Usually it just pops right on in. Since we got it on camera, it's gonna be difficult. Now come on. I don't know why it's wanting to be like this. There we go. Put our gasket on. And this is the way I do it. I got a buddy of mine that stacks the overdrive section together into the housing, bolts the housing on back here, and then stacks all the guts on the inside. I build the inside and slide my tail housing on. You do it however you want to do it. And that's our adjustment shim. I'm going to put this together first without the shim that we're going to put in there. I'm going to show you how much play it has. Some are worse than others. This one's got a lot of play. You see that there? And pull that snap ring out of there. We got our shim. It's got this little ledge that's going to face back. Put your snap ring back in the groove. There we go. Took almost 98% of that out of there. Got a flat snap ring. Put it in first. Got a wavy snap ring. Move the opening away from that first opening. And we got our pressure plate. And then we're going to alternate clutches and steels. And we got this wire ring. And we got our bearing. Got our gasket. Got this plate. It's got beveled ends. They want that facing up. We got these 225 Torx. Have the bevel to them. Put this on my linkage. If I have the linkage, I'll go ahead and put that on. And it allows me to help get this in there. Push it all the way forward. You're going to have to line your rod up into your park mechanism in your tail housing. Go ahead and pull your guide shaft out. Two brackets go on the top bolts. And make sure and get these bolts tight. If they back out, it'll end up snapping these bolts off in the housing. good there. Got an O-ring on our neutral switch. There's a little tab right there. Needs to line up in that. .25 Torx on these. There, we got our speed sensor. One inch on that, and our rear seal, and we're done with this unit. So we'll catch you on the next one. And have a good one.